welcome to Out of the Box Radio with me, your host, Christine Blasdale. Out of the Box Radio is a weekly podcast of audible ear candy dedicated to bringing a fresh perspective on this thing that we call life. And each and every week, we're going to be diving into the topics that matter most with lively conversations on issues such as health, wellness, and transformational healing, all with the goal of creating a better world and becoming a happier human being. I will be your tour guide for this epic adventure, and each and every week, we're going to be embarking on a journey with the ultimate goal being transformation to our highest potential. And now, let's get out of the box. And welcome to a very, very special Out of the Box with Christine. This is the debut program. This is the very, very first Out of the Box with Christine, and I'm so very happy and honored to have as my special guest, Abigail Noel. Abigail Noel is a medical intuitive, psychic channel, spiritual speaker, and most recently a comedian as well. And I want to welcome Abigail Noel to Out of the Box with Christine. Hello, Abigail.
Hello, Christine. How are you? I am so honored to be here. So first of all, thank you. So honored to be on the flagship show. That's awesome.
Well, I wanted to have you be the first guest on this program because, as you know, this whole adventure of doing a podcast has been something that has been on my mind, and you were really an integral part of getting me out of the box of my own of my old work that I used to do, and just saying go for it. And since I have you, and since you are a psychic channel and intuitive, I would love to know what you're getting, what your immediate hit is on this program on Out of the Box Radio. Yeah.
I love it. I just got full chills down both my right and left when you were talking. And what I heard was my understanding is it's going to be big, like it's going completely national. It's going to start your entire platform, which is going to continue growing. So it's being shown to me as the foundation, the 22, right? And then thank you so much. I'm honored, that I was able to hold that space for you and do the work that we've done in the sessions. But man, I'm just the telephone, and it was very clear. And that is one of the things that I love to work with, and one of the things that I'm very strong with, and that's working with people's contracts or their destiny path. And when we were talking, it was very clear that you were to move to this platform and that it was going to be incredibly successful.
Now, Abigail, I just told the listeners that you're a medical intuitive, psychic channel, spiritual speaker, and yes, also a comedian. Why don't you tell the listeners how you discovered that you were an intuitive? How did you find out that you had this ability?
Well, I've been what my guidance call a lifer, and what that means is I have always been aware of my intuitive abilities, what people call psychic abilities, and to me it's a divine guidance. I've always seen spirits out of body, and I've always seen my guides and been aware of them since my first memories at 2.5, which was interesting because I was raised really for the most part in an atheist household. My dad was an atheist and a science mind, a very brilliant man. So I learned to keep it to myself. And then the other piece, though, that was quite interesting growing up is one of the things or the intuitive pieces that came through most strongly for me was that I would know at a very young age when people were sick or when our pets were sick, and then also when they were going to cross. I would be shown that as a very young age, and that has been a repeated pattern and a very strong part of my contract as I've moved through my 46 years working as a healer, the last 6.
That had to be kind of hard as a child to be able to see when your pet was going to cross over.
It was incredibly hard, honestly, and very stressful. It was very stressful because I did not understand why I was being given the information. And at a very young age, I felt responsible for the information that I was given. I always thought that maybe there was something I was supposed to do in my life. I now understand it, of course, in a much different way.
what comes to you when you're talking to someone? What's the process? Is it a voice? Is it a visual? Are they thoughts? What's that? Just to explain to the listeners, because I think this is really important. Yeah, really important.
Sure. Actually, all of the above. I use all of my senses, and what I call my third eye movie screen. But I use all of my senses in a reading. I might smell spaghetti sauce. I might ask, and then I might be shown somebody and given a name. So all at the same time, these things can be happening concurrently. Sometimes I hear the words, which is called a direct channel. Sometimes I hear people yelling. Sometimes I see words painted across my third eye movie screen. Sometimes I actually am shown what's called holographic images, which are the movies of someone's life. We can watch those. They're amazing. You past lives, present, parallel, things that happen in this lifetime. Often when I'm working, doing the medium work, which I like to call a telephone for heaven, I love to be a connection and help people in heaven get messages to their loved ones here. That was always meant to be. And often they will show me a movie, a little clip of their life, sort of like a trailer, for a movie. And I'll say, oh, what about the time when you went to the amusement park and your grandfather let you pick out the horse on the round and you got the cotton candy and your brother got mad because he dropped his ice cream cone, and they'll be like, oh my God.
That's pretty specific there, Abigail.
Well, and it's funny because I really have readings like that. The movies will come through that clear. It's called evidentiary mediumship. It's amazing. And future reads as well. I love that. So you can do destiny reads where you can ask to see what it is that you wrote. And that's one of the big misnomers also that I really like to speak to correct, is that anyone who, and no offense, but calls themselves a psychic or an intuitive, however that works, but especially using the term psychic, all they can do, and I don't say all, but all we can do is predict the possibilities and probabilities. It's up to the choices that we make. So important, that when you go, if somebody gives you a reading, that's why I like to stay away from the term reading and say more sessions, because really the intuitive abilities that we have are for two reasons. It's to help people heal and to clear subconscious reactive patterns that are blocking their ability to live their best life. And our intuitive abilities are used to help each other validate our own divine guidance.
You touched on something just a minute ago about the intuitive abilities that we all have. Do you believe that we all have this ability, inside of us somewhere, buried, or is it something that only, a few people have and are able to tap into?
I believe 100% that every single person on the planet is psychic. I do not believe in psychics. We are all psychic if we choose to trust, to believe, and to practice. You have to make it a daily practice. Hearing God, and this is what it is, everyone has the ability, not only the ability, but it's my understanding, not my belief, because I don't know anything. I only know what my guides and my guidance tell me. And it is my understanding that divine guidance is not only possible for everyone, but it was the original divine plan, that we were never meant to have free will and free choice without our divine guidance. I literally believed up until about the age 16 that everybody heard God on some level. And I understood that I had this divine guidance. I could see my guides. I would hear voices. I knew this voice from that voice at different times. My grandmother, my relatives, after they died, would come to me with messages. I could hear them clearly. I would do my best to do as they were asking me to do. And I believed that other people were having these experiences in their own way. One of the most poignant times in my life was when I realized that there is not everyone, but there's a large population out there that thinks I'm nuts because I hear God. And I think it's funny how many people will tell me that they talk to God, but they think it's funny I hear them. I think it's crazy that people talk to something that doesn't talk back. I mean,
Right?
you might as well talk to a wall, and I'm crazy. But no, so going back to the question, yes, everyone, and to say that I have 8 years, I've been honored to work, 6 in my own private practice, 8 before that in an internship at the Heart Center in Memphis, Tennessee. And I've had 8 years of watching people clear subconscious reactive patterns and trauma from the past and start hearing their own dialogue and divine guidance, hearing God, if you will. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. People use, there's many different ways.
I'm wondering if you can give me a better understanding of that, and of course vis-a-vis listeners. Well, some people still have the belief that you're born, you live, you die. Some people believe there's a heaven, there's a hell, but then they think that that's it. And of course, my own personal belief is that we've been on this carousel ride many times. Thousands of times. Yeah. If you can break it down a little bit of what your understanding of past lives is, and why we're here. Why are we here? That's the biggest question I think that has plagued mankind for so long. It's like, why are we here?
I love this because I just, and I don't believe I have this verbatim, but I know I've got it well enough to get the point across in a way that honors the man. But Stephen Hawking's book, A Brief History in Time, I just got chills. See, when we separated religion and science, we were dead in the water, and we've been dead in the water. And with that said, in his book, he said, the greatest thing mankind will ever do is to understand why we are really here. When we finally do this, we will understand the mind of God. And when I read it, I had full chills, because this is a man that most people believe is an atheist. Just in that sentence alone, no, he's not. No, he's not. He just didn't buy into the definition of God that we have currently been given. No judgment, but especially by religion. Why are we here? For one reason and one reason only. And I love it because a man that most of the world considers an atheist stated it right there. We are here to do one thing, and that is to understand the mind of God, which is love. We now know that science supports what I'm about to say. Science supports the theory that God is love. You can look at it as mama and daddy love, anyway, the big vat of love, the big where we came from and where we go back to. We are down here to feel that separation and return to it. The only way to experience and to understand how God loves is to love other people in that measure. So that is the reason we're here, to understand the mind of love and to understand how to extend that type of love to the best of our ability to every living creature and person that we come across.
And one way that we get to understand the mind of God would be through having several different lifetimes and interacting with others that are on the same journey, the same lesson. Not lessons. I hate the word lessons because it sounds like you're going to get graded. But
right.
but the same journey,
experiences,
right?
Classes,
yeah, exactly.
Movies.
So having lifetime after lifetime after lifetime with certain individuals, is that the purpose? Do you think that's the purpose behind that?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, it's shown to me, number one, we ascend more than once. We ascend as many times, and that everybody's got to ascend at least once. Some souls are happier about coming back down to this earth space or this earth experiment, are happier about it than others. Some are more supportive, I guess you could say, than others, or like the experience. The earth dimension, the third dimensional psychological realm of being, where we are in body and matter is here. We can touch it, we can feel it. This third dimensional realm we call Earth is the only place that a soul can come to learn the aspect of God that is the emotional aspect. This is literally it was beautiful, because I was working with whom I call Father God one evening, and he showed me this universe and the planets in it, and he laid a body out over the planets, and he showed me how every one of the planets represented a different organ, and the earth sits at the heart. So he said it's literally the heartbeat. And what's amazing is that the emotions we feel on the planet, they don't just affect the other people around us and what goes on here on the planet. They affect the entire universe, literally, and beyond.
Wow.
But going back to that, I love what you were saying about do we run in soul groups? Yes, and no judgment, but it is a lot like school. And they show it to me a lot like Hollywood, making movies, which is fun too. But it is a lot like school. You most often are not going to have freshmen souls, younger souls, running with the old dogs, the seniors, or the ones that are here to get their PhD, or they're working on their masters. Okay, so in general, for the most part, you do have some souls that might jump, but we run in soul families. And for the most part, because nothing is always, there are no rules in heaven, just laws and principles of the universe, we will run in, they'll show it to me in 3 rings, 3 soul families, and they call them pods. And we will get together and literally make movies. That's the way it's shown to me. We write our contracts, our movies, the experiences. Who's going to play who? Who's going to play whose mother this time? Father, lover, brother, children, what's going to happen, what experiences, and it's all based upon our what they call soul resume, because the bottom line is, to have any empathy on earth, we all have to experience what the other one has experienced. Everyone has to take the classes. So, a lot of times you'll hear about that and you'll think, wow, what's the point of that? It really is true somewhere in, and it goes over thousands of lives. We could never really come down here and experience in one life what is necessary to really understand the mind of God, the understand of love, the mind, to understand the mind of love. Right. Takes way more than one lifetime. The beautiful part of that is there is no judgment. Nobody cares how many lifetimes or how many movies it makes. In fact, we actually enjoy making the movies, and we love the challenge. It's great. One time, whom I call Father God, and I heard him, this is a direct channel, these are his words, and one day he said to me, sweetheart, he said, no one in heaven is counting the number of times anyone falls down. He said, but we sure as hell love to celebrate the number of times you guys get back up.
Right.
I just thought, it was like, wow, the only judgment that you're going to incur or experience, which goes back to something you had said earlier about hell. There is no hell. There is for sure a heaven. I don't care what someone wants to call it. We don't need to get lost in the name or the definition. It's the 5th dimension from our 3rd dimensional world. And there for sure is one of those, but there is no hell. But the hell that we create in our own minds, hell was created by fear, and fear alone.
My question is, because this is something that is a lot of people have in regards to the soul's journey here, and it ties into a little bit in past lives, but really in the current life. And what is something that I think that they have a hard time wrapping their head around, and they don't understand, is why is it that certain people, as we come here, as we're born, have such a hard life? Is it again the thing that we need to experience all those different aspects? What is that? Can you let us know what your feeling is on that?
Yeah, I sure will. In full gratitude, first of all, to all the pain and suffering on the planet, first of all. And the second thing, as you were talking, 2 things came through. So let me write it down so I don't forget it. And I worked with a mother here in Memphis, Tennessee, who was at St. Jude's Hospital. Her twin baby girls had been born, and at 4 months old, one of them, named Kaya, was diagnosed with leukemia. And during the process of the treatment, to fast forward, she got pneumonia in her lungs, a viral infection in her lungs, and her immune system was hit so hard with the other medications. And so I have gratitude to all of that, and to medicine. They're doing their best. With that said, I was called to come in and work with this child, and in 14 months, and when I walked into the hospital room, getting back to what you were asking, when I walked into the hospital room, it was all I could do as a healer to hold back. It's all I can do now to hold back the wave of tears. I saw this baby girl who was so swollen and puffed up. 14 months she had been poked with needles and prodded and medications and in so much pain. She had been taken from her home environment, didn't get the rocking and the nurturing, taken by just all of these things in so much pain. There were so many tubes and needles in this little tiny baby, and I realized she's just one of many. And I worked with the family that night, and it's tough work to do when you're looking at a mother and father and they want a miracle, and I know I can't do it. It does not come through me. I'm just a channel. And any healer, and it's important to say this, is as good or as great as the love that they can hold for the situation, for the space, and for the people involved. And also, you have to have no fear of being wrong. You just have to be so open. No fear of being wrong. You have to be all right with that. And you also have to detach from the outcome. And I'll tell you what, I learned a lot that night. It was, I learned a lot over the next few days. To fast forward at 10:22 the next day, baby Kaya crossed over. I was told that evening that she would, and I thought, what was the point of all of that pain? Why did that little girl in for this family, and why did she go through that, and what happened? And the one I call Father God, I call him Dad, he came with baby Kaya, no joke, at 11:22. He came at 11:22, and I have these numbers all written down that day, but they're so etched in my mind I don't need them. And he came at 11:22 with baby Kaya's spirit, and he explained to me why. He explained to me that baby Kaya and her sister, who were born twins, that they actually as one soul made the decision to split, that losing a child was a contracted requirement that each one of us has to feel at some point in one of our lives. Because we have to do it at least once. Because if someone on the planet had to feel it, then we all do. Otherwise, we would have no empathy. No empathy. See, realizing our subconscious is so much greater than just this little conscious piece that we're living as Abigail or Christine, right? There's so much more in that. Every life, every movie we've ever made is back there, and it's stored in that soul energy. And we can pull from that at any time, which is amazing. That's the science of it. That's why we've got to put science and God back together. With that said, baby Kaya made the decision on her own, because we make the decisions. No one forces us to write these movies in heaven, and we choose when to take the classes and how. And baby Kaya asked to go through that sacrifice. Number one, it got her to an ascension point. It's almost like if you had just, and as to sound a little bit weird, but it's the truth. It's like if you have just a couple more, maybe like 2 classes to go to finish your master's, and that's all she had. So it worked for her to come down and do this 14 months of suffering, and the sacrifice that she made allowed her baby sister Jasmine to continue living, so that her parents only suffered the loss of the one child and still had the one, so that their hearts could keep going. Make sense?
Yeah.
So that story, I hope, represents in answers. You could give a jillion different scenarios, but almost always, and on average, because it always fluctuates, 88% of the time, what happened was supposed to happen. And in fact, most of the time, the soul chose it that way. Even, and not often, but even sometimes suicide. No joke. And tragic accidents are almost never what they look like. There are a lot of souls that do not want to come here and stay in an old body. They want to come in, make a splash, and go home. James Dean. is one of them. And we look at this as this tragic event or this tragic accident that happened. And what's wild is that soul will literally tell me time and time again that it was the most amazing way to go, because they were literally alive one minute and bam, they were in heaven the next. No cancer, no sickness, no Alzheimer's, none of that. They got out of all of that. They got to come down here, take some classes, learn, love a little bit, and go on home and write a new movie. And then we all mourn it as a tragedy for years and years and years, when the heavenly truth is so opposite. So funny. They'll tell me all the time in heaven, my guides, flip it like a pancake. It's not what it looks like.
I'm just curious, because this is something that I know a lot of people, I mean, on the internet, my friends, personally, everybody is interested in, let's be honest, the things that are important to us is, health, wealth, and love. Love. And so many people have, I just would say, like in the last year especially, been talking about soulmates and talking about this reference of twin flames. I'm wondering if you can talk to our listeners a little bit about soulmate contracts or twin flame contracts, that whole dynamic. And, basically, does everybody have a soulmate? Does everybody have a twin flame?
Awesome. And it's a great question. Thank you. And my guidance work in a very funny way with me, hence the comedy piece. Also, it's my understanding that heaven is like hysterical, and why wouldn't it be? Because laughter is so incredibly healing. With that said, I was told some time ago that I was a camp counselor for the twin flames in our particular soul family.
You are a camp counselor. I can attest to that.
And I've been told time and time again, I mean, it's just been amazing. It was funny because when it first started happening and I saw this repeated pattern, and I want to say that when it started occurring, I had no earthly idea, no conscious idea of what a twin flame was. Now, my guides call it a twin heart. They show it to me as the heart splitting. And then again, what I want to say, and I say it so humbly, but I think it's important for the listeners to know where the information is coming from. All of my information and my understanding about twin hearts and the difference between that, also known as twin souls, aka or twin flames, and soulmates, that all of it comes, I'm very honored to say, from my direct guidance. And from these repeated sessions that I would have when I went into private practice for myself 6 years ago, all of a sudden I kept having all these couples. And so I would ask my guides, and I asked Jay one day, I said, what the heck? I said, I don't want to be a couples counselor. Like, what? I really didn't want to do the work. And because it's one of the hardest places to go with somebody, because they are highly emotional, right? And everybody's right, and no one wants it. And so all of a sudden, I became a couples counselor, and then they just kept coming. My understanding is that everyone has a twin flame or twin heart, as I like to call it, because my guidance does. That everyone has a twin heart if they choose, and that one ascension is necessary before the first split can occur. What it means is that you split yourself, your soul essence, male from female, right from left, and then you learn to rebalance without the other half before coming back together. That you will live thousands and thousands of lives to achieve this.
Wow.
That you will come back together after splitting for your ascension. And it's beautiful. I had full chills. And it's just beautiful because the stories for the twin hearts are just some of the most amazing stories. Now, when they come back to reunite, now here's what's interesting. So you will over thousands of stories, thousands of movies sometimes, but whatever it is, we do many, many movies without our twin heart. We work with other soulmates to prepare. We do 12 movies during this time, 12. like the 12 houses in our astrology chart. There's actually 13 though. We're moving there. We're getting there. With that said, you'll do 12 movies with your twin flames, and these will be some of your hardest, or your twin hearts, they will be some of your toughest, hardest, most painful, raw, full of rejection and pain movies that you will do. Why? Because the one that you love the most in heaven is the one who can create the most sadness or pain for you here on earth. And that's the name of the game. I was going to say this before, because you will only walk as close to God as you have allowed yourself, as you have allowed your heart to be broken. So the one, literally, the same way that in science now supports this theory, that you can only experience as much joy as you have allowed yourself to feel pain, sadness, or grief. So the same way, the person that you love the most in heaven is literally the one that's going to create the most pain for you here on the planet. We ask them to play the most difficult roles. Then you get to the 13th round, and there's a bunch of us who have been coming together. And then right now, bam, we've got this big come together for 2016 and 2017. So in this next year, when 2016 starts, you're going to see a lot of these couples coming together. But they work together in a way to move and inspire people. It's really incredible. I'm getting full vibrations.
And how do you know if you've met in this lifetime your twin flame? Is there any, I mean, they don't come with a business card and say, hi, I'm your twin flame. But I mean, how do you know?
I'll tell you what, in so many ways, in the same way that everyone has their own specific dialogue with God, mom and daddy love, you will know your twin flame. Depends on how conscious and how attuned you are. If you're and no judgment for that, but if you're very attuned to using your intuitive abilities, you will see the dialogue. Like, wow, I mean, so there's a dialogue that's there for people who are very in tune. They are most likely already plugged into it. For someone else who's not as in tune, and that's okay at this time, to your intuitive nature, it's going to look like it's going to be that one that knocked you across the room. It's going to be like you couldn't stop seeing them. It's like they were glowing across the room. It's the only place your eyes would go. Or maybe they're wearing a shirt with your favorite number on it or your favorite rock star. And that's what starts conversation. And later that day you'll be able to run everything, like every word, every little detail will stick in your mind just a little bit more. Okay, you'll have a heart sense that you have known this person before. You'll get the chills or the goosebumps, some people when they're around. So any of these things, could happen.
Now, it's my understanding that if you do meet your twin flame, that it is not necessarily this, how do we say, fairy tale adventure that people like to romanticize in their mind, right? Because I mean, this is literally your other half. This is you, yes. Right? So I can understand that and people say, well, I have not a problem with myself, right? But this is not necessarily the fairy tale journey per se. I mean, I'm sure it could be, but it's not necessarily all rose petals and champagne.
No, almost never, and I'm being told I can use that word, almost never do the twin flames come down for what's called a honeymoon life. Okay, you earn those. You earn those. With that said, almost always, this relationship starts out rocky. There is almost always one that's going to run. So you got one that's trying to love one, and the other one that's just, yes, no. They come and they go, and they in and they out, and it's hot and it's cold, and it can be one of the most difficult, painful processes to go through. And per each person's choice and what they decide to do, it's going to go one of two ways. You're either going to move on, and the universe is going to bring you another more suitable person at that time, or the two are going to come together, and it will be the most amazing relationship ever. But how long does that take? It's different for each twin. It depends on the movie that they wrote, the classes that they have to take, that they're here to take together. It has a lot to do with the karma that may be between them that's still there from past lives. So energy and emotional patterns that still need to be cleared. So it's different for each one. Some twins come and it stays tumultuous and rocky the whole time for the most part. Like they might finally, I don't mean finally because it's all in divine timing, but at the very end they might have this period of peace and respect and love for one another. Almost always when you see that, those two are at an evolutionary level where they're going to turn around and come right back in another relationship, and that could be lovers again, or it could be a parent-son relationship or brother-sister, because the twin hearts play every role to one another. It's required.
So when you say it's required for the twin flames to play every role, you meaning not just lovers or anything
Correct.
like that, but like father, daughter, mother,
Correct.
son, all that stuff.
They'll come in as lovers, brother, sibling, father, mother. So all of those are interchangeable. The twin hearts are going to keep it in the family closer, those close relationships.
So in past lives with twin flames, you could be siblings. You could
Yes.
be either the parent of your twin flame or the child of your twin flame.
Yes, most often you're going to play more love stories. They're showing me right now as we're speaking. What your class is then is be the change you want to see. Do not put your expectations on them. Do not tell them that they have to change. I had a session the other day with a beautiful woman. She's in a twin flame relationship. She's been working on this for 22 years. She said it's her life's, but he is her life's project, she said. And then she said, and I've been trying to get him to love himself more. I tell him all the time he needs to love himself more, and I give him these books, and I tell him he's got to do this and he's got to do that. And I said, stop it. That's your first problem. She said, but it's true. Everyone should love themselves more. I said, but whether he loves himself more is none of your damn business. If you want him to love himself more, then you love yourself more, because your twin is the best reflection of yourself that you're ever going to get. And if he doesn't love himself enough, that's because she doesn't. And I also want to say the twin flames do not have to be male-female partnerships, and are not on a regular basis. I wanted to bring that up as well. These were just examples of those sessions.
You know what? I wanted to read something. This is just a passing thing. This is something that I just had found. I would love to attribute who the writer was, because I would love to give them credit for this, but I don't know. So I'm just saying that right now. This is something that I saw, and I just thought it was so very, very interesting. It says, this is about love and how to identify love by knowing what it's not. Okay?
Yes.
Love doesn't use a fist. Love never calls you fat or lazy or ugly. Love doesn't laugh at you in front of friends. It is not in love's interest for your self-esteem to be low. Love is a helium-based emotion. Love always takes the high road. Love does not make you beg. Love does not make you deposit your paycheck into its bank account. Love certainly never, ever brings the children into it. Love does not ask or even want you to change. This is the part that I wanted you to hear. Love does not ask or even want you to change. But if you do change, love is as excited about this change as you are, if not more so. And if you, here's the clincher. And if you go back to the way you were before you changed, love will go back with you.
Yes, they'll love you anyway.
Right?
Yes, that was beautiful. I love that it said it's a helium-based emotion. I love that, because it does. It just gets higher and higher and bigger and bigger. And the process, guys, self-love, it can be painful at times. It's what it takes, you know, it's what it takes. It's almost, it was shown to me one time that the sadness that I was feeling at one particular time, and I'm sure we can all connect to heartbreak, you know, the sadness I was feeling, I said, what is the purpose? And it was shown to me as when they do the angioplasty, when they take the little balloon and they go in and like expand,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the artery. It was shown to me as doing that to my heart, that literally the purpose and the sadness was to expand my heart so that I could literally heal and go out and have more love. And so that's, anyway, in Flame of Gratitude, that was just beautiful. I love that helium-based emotion, and it's true. The more that you will just keep your heart open, keep on walking, and be the change in your relationship that you want to see, it works.
Well, and also something that I think there's a lot of people walking around that are, I don't want to say broken, hurt. So many wounds from past lives, from this lifetime, that they carry from past hurts, when they were children, whatever. Then they think that they can find their, in another person, their happiness. And what I've learned is that my real job, for whoever my twin flame is, for whoever the person who wants to come into my life, my only job, my main job, is to be as happy an individual as possible, to work on my old patterns and heal myself, because that's the greatest gift you can give someone that you love.
Absolutely, the greatest gift you can live, because you can only give what you have.
Right.
You can only give what you have, and so the more that you literally take care of self emotionally and work on loving self, man, we are our biggest judgers. We are hard on ourselves. That's why in 8 years of doing sessions and working with people, gosh, I don't think there's almost a session that has gone by that I don't realize, God, we're so hard on ourselves. And so that's the first step of self-love, is to start letting go of old judgments and old wounds about self, because what we don't understand is that we take that judgment that we have for self and we reflect it outward to the rest of the world.
And we put it onto our twin flame.
And we literally put it on. Oh man, in fact, that's the first thing. I love that this came up, because this is really important, is that you've got to release judgments for yourself. You've got to work on your own personal freedom through releasing yourself from old, whatever it is that you're feeling, and resentments for other people as well, because that's what it creates. So when you're running around feeling guilt and you're feeling shame and you're judging self for what you're not or what you're lacking, then literally when your twin flame and you come together, and the universe will do it at the right time. But if all of that stuff is there, yes, you are going to see it in that other person reflected, and you're going to make false judgments about that person. I have seen it time after time after time after time. So if you want to find your twin heart, your twin flame, the person that you wrote into your movie, the one who is contracted to be with you, then you will do that self-work.
We're oh God, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours and hours, but we're going to be wrapping up soon, and I just wanted to give you I wanted to give you the opportunity, because I've been asking you questions, and not that I want you to ask me a question at all, but I want for you just to take a moment. Don't worry about how long it takes. But I would love to know if your guides have something that they want to tell the listeners as a whole, that there's an important message. And I mean, again, it's not going to one individual, but you know who this would be directed at.
Yeah.
So if there is something that they would like to say through you, please take the moment and go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just coming through, and I like to recognize who. So this is Jay. It's the spirit of Christ Yeshua, or Jesus Christ, as most people know him, and I call him Jay. He asked me to. So out of total reverence and love, but he's coming through right away as you were speaking. And the first thing that he said is he wants to tell everybody, please laugh more. He said that literally they had more fun 2,000 years ago, before like flat screen TVs and plumbing. And he said that people hung out more, told stories. They cared about each other, looked out for each other more, checked on each other more, because they had the time to do that. And he said that they laughed every bit, that literally every bit of joy that they could pull out, because times were so horrible then. It's funny how we look at times now and we think it's so bad. No, it's not as bad as it looks. And we have to realize that our thoughts and our perceptions are creating the reality. So what the first thing that he was saying as you were talking is, please laugh more. The most important thing that you will do is get happy. And I know that's not always easy. When you're having a hard time, then just accept that. Don't get mad at yourself, but have places to reach out. I think that's why it's important that we have our tribe or fellowship of some kind. You know, our close-knit group or our friends that we can go to. If you don't have that, then please ask the universe for it and be open, and it will come. So that's the first thing, is just to laugh and have more fun, and don't take life so darn seriously. The second thing that came to me was an experience I had, and I was in the grocery store shopping in Memphis, Tennessee, and all of a sudden I was hearing, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And I laughed, because they thought, well, goodness, I don't know much about the darn Bible, but I know that one. And I asked and it was Father God who was speaking to me, and I said, "What do you want me to know?" And he said, "In heaven, we do not entertain worry, anxiety, shame, blame, guilt, or resentment." He said, "Don't do it here, and if you practice that long enough, your life will look much like heaven." And I started working on that every day. So if there were, one thing I'd say, guys, man, write that down: worry, anxiety, shame, blame, resentment, guilt. Write them down, stick them on your bathroom mirror, put them on your refrigerator, put them on your forehead, put them wherever you're going to look. And every time you start to entertain one of those, realize it's an opportunity to trust the universe, trust God, who is love, a little bit more, whatever your definition of God is, and to let that go and understand the science. Understand the science. When you let go of those lower vibrating emotions, then there's only one thing that can happen. Why? Because love is a helium-based emotion. You're going to go up. Love and gratitude. It was such an honor, Christine. I got to tell you, such an honor. And the first time I met you, I just knew right off the bat, your energy is amazing. Your heart is huge. I am so excited for the new show, and I'm beyond words honored to have been here and spent this time with you today. Thank you.
Well, I am honored to know you, and I'm so happy that our listeners now know you. So that is the best news, folks. If you would like to check out Abigail Noel, and do it, she's just an amazing intuitive, a wonderful healer, and a huge heart as well. You can go to abigailnoel.com, and that's ABIGAILNOEL.com. And real quickly, you have you have a special thing for Out of the Box with Out of the Box Radio? Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. Anyone just message me through my website. Let me know that you're an Out of the Box listener with Christine, and it's 50% off your first session.
That's awesome. That is incredible. And you can do hour long, hour and a half long. It just depends on what they want, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Abigail, thank you so very much again, love. I love and adore you to bits and pieces. You are just so wonderful. I'm so glad our paths crossed.
Oh, me too. Just absolutely all of that right back to you. I've been absolutely blessed to have you in my life, and really to call you dear sister, because I am just so happy to be reunited. That's what it is. I knew when I met you, I was like, I have known her 1,000 lives before. So, I'm really excited to watch what happens for you next.
Well, I'm really hopeful that the show will introduce the listeners to some amazing people, and I am very honored to have you be the very first guest on this program. So, thank you again, love.
Thank you.
All right. And to everybody else, make sure you tune in next week. And until then, I'm Christine Blosdell with Out of the Box Radio with Christine. And I just want to remind you to always think outside of the box.